Hey there, and welcome to Every Little Bit, the casual conversation podcast about playing our way to understanding this culture and medium that is games. I am Joey, and with me is Jamin.
Hi.
Hey Jay, what's up?
Oh, guys, I still have this upper respiratory infection, but I'm getting better.
It's fantastic news. I was expecting you to say something about video games, but this is a casual podcast. Not about casual gaming.
No.
But a casual podcast. We are very laid back and relaxed. Almost a minute in, and we still haven't gotten to what we're playing. So what have you been playing?
Lately I've been playing Planet Base.
Which is totally different than Space Base.
It's not totally different than Space Base. It's pretty much a working version of Space Base. If Space Base sounded at all interesting, but, it doesn't really work all that well. Planet Base is pretty much the same thing, but it's on a planet. And you have to build your little planet colony, or your little space colony on, sort of a loose rendering of Mars and Europa and some kind of rock planet.
Some kind of rock planet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's pretty good. I mean, you can, it's not as good as I remember it when I first played it, but it's pretty good. I like it. It's fun. You can...
wait, hold on. As in it got better or it got worse over time, or that your expectations got higher since you played it last?
I think kind of both. I think when I first played it, I was just so happy that it was a working version of Space Base. I kind of overlooked a lot of... Because I really like that whole idea that, you make your buildings and all those sorts of things for your little people, and you got to worry about atmosphere and food. It's basically like role-playing as the manager of the Martian.
Yeah, sure.
And you gotta worry about making food and making bioplastics and metal and all those sorts of things. And it's really, really fun and cool. But on the second time around, it sort of turned into a lot of, I realized how much, you just kind of wait a lot. You just wait for your little people to, amass the correct amount of resources so that you can actually start building stuff. And it's just a lot of waiting after a while. But,
okay.
In good news, though, unlike Banish, there are lots of black people in Planet Base.
That's, okay.
White people are a minority in Planet Base.
Oh, that's because it's in the future.
I'm guessing so.
As we all know, white people are going to be extinct in the very near future.
Well, so. I mean, I'm going to make a... See, you are ruining my jokes, because I'm going to make a joke about this when I play Mass Effect.
Wait, what's the Mass Effect joke about white people?
I have a sort of a proto joke in the works where I was going to pick the default white female character and then make a joke about how white people are going extinct, and I really like playing minority characters, so I picked a white woman.
proto joke.
It's a proto joke. It'll get better.
Joke, yes.
Yeah.
It'll get a bit better with age. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Got to workshop it. Got to throw it out there. Actually, you talking about Planet Base reminds me of a game that I used to play in the late '90s called Outpost 2.
I have heard of
Sierra.
Outpost 2.
Yeah, the whole reason why that game was, to me at least, an atrocity. It was if you want to know why I love XCOM so much, it's because I played games like Outpost 2 where I was like, this game has a lot of potential, and I really want to, I love space. I'm a big, I love aliens and space and all that kind of stuff. I don't like the X-Files, surprisingly, but pretty much everything else has to do with space travel and science fiction and stuff out in space. I'm fucking loving it. And that's why a game like XCOM that is mostly existing in my imagination. The original XCOM. The original XCOM was a lot of requires imagination. And Outpost felt the same way, of where I was like, wow, this is... if I imagine, anything is possible. And it wasn't until, probably about 10 years later that I kind of realized, I was like, I've been had. Like, I had my imagination all, the magic was inside of me all along. It's bullshit. So, I can understand going back and playing the game and it not, like, living up to how you felt in the past. I can understand that very well. So.
It's not a bad game, though. I don't want to leave anybody with the impression that, like, it's a bad game or anything like that. I just don't think... I think it's very limited by the genre of the kind of game that it is. There's only so much that you can do with a colony building simulator thing with very limited stuff that you can build and stuff like that. But it's the kind of game that doesn't have enough systems in it to make it super interesting past like the 10 to 15 hour mark. Okay. Versus a game like Banish that you can just get tons of enjoyment out of that game for forever just because of the different ways that everything works.
What is with you and wanting to get like 20 hours out of a game? It seems like your 20 hours is your like key. Like if a game can't keep you occupied for 20 hours, it seems like you're just like, this is unacceptable. The worse than Hitler. This game is worse than Hitler.
I wouldn't say so. I would say it's a specific kind of game. I think a city building simulator kind of game, like Planet Base, Space Base, Banish, basically any of the games that are currently on my channel for video game reviews. I think those kinds of games should give you at least about 20 hours of gameplay out of it. But then you have a lot of other kinds of games like, you know, Shelter 2 or Gunpoint, things like that. You know, you're not supposed to get 20 hours out of that. Like, if you can get 20 hours out of that, you're insane.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, like, that you're... Yeah, I'm not saying, like, you're like, I played Her Story, finished in 2 hours, 2 out of 5, total bullshit. Yeah.
No, I think, for games that are simulators that give you the freedom to build stuff or arrange things in a certain environment. Yeah, games that let you interact with the system, I think you should be able to get 20 hours out of that.
Yeah, you're probably right about that, because otherwise the system, there's something mechanically wrong with that system, I think, if that's the case.
Yeah.
If it's not a content-based game, if it's a mechanics-based game, then yeah, that seems about right.
Because, I mean, I would argue you could play, like, Space Engineers for forever, and not really get bored with it, because it's Minecraft in space. I think that's one of the reasons why people play Minecraft all the time, is just because it's just mechanics in systems and stuff like that. But if there was so few systems in those kinds of games that you could only get, 10 to 15 hours out of it, I don't know, I'd feel gypped.
Noted. Okay. So what else have you been playing?
Other than that, I have just been playing Elite Dangerous, really. There was a period of time where I didn't really play Elite Dangerous. I think I went for a good 3 or 4 months without playing Elite Dangerous, and then for whatever reason, I think it was a combination of you talking about it and a couple of other people I heard talking about it. It's just made me want to try it out. And then Horizons came out. I don't have the expansion yet, and I don't know that I will for a while, but I have enough money in that game to start thinking really strongly about getting a Python, but I don't have enough to actually get one yet. So I'm trying to think of an equivalent in another game.
And Python is
the second I believe it's the second most expensive ship in the game. It takes you hours to get that kind of money to be able to get that, but it's still like, to give you an idea, it takes like so grain is like, it's less than 100 galactic space credits in the game, and you can get grain from like an agricultural system and sell it at a high tech or industrial area or something like that and get like a 20 cash profit. So you do that enough times, and eventually you can make some money. But that's just rough numbers. So the Python costs about 52 to 60 million in the game, depending on where you get it. But that's nothing compared to the Anaconda, which is the expensive ship in the game, and that's at like anywhere from like 140 to 170 million.
Can you? I know with Star Citizen you can buy ships with human money, not Space Banana dollars, but like actual cold hard cash. Can you do the same in Elite Dangerous, or
I'm pretty sure you can't, but I haven't really looked at what they're selling in a while. I know that you can now buy bobbleheads
Okay, that's
to put on your
cute. Yeah.
your ship's dashboard, and it'll move around
Sure.
when you go to light speed and all that stuff. But I think that's actually one of the big differences between the two games is that Star Citizen is sort of encouraging you to pay to win almost, whereas Elite Dangerous is like, no, you will play our game for years before you can get good stuff.
Which is, I probably that'll be our topic next time to talk about, because I'm slowly changing my opinions on that as I slowly get more money than time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to change my opinions on that, especially too because I don't always see it as pay to win. Sometimes I see it as pay to play.
Right.
And like, there's an experience I want to have, and I'm totally willing to pay for that. But I'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Talk about that next time during our little back and forth chat. But
I have very, very strong opinions about that, and I will fully admit that they are very much informed from my experiences of playing Dota 2 and League of Legends.
yeah, I would imagine. Yeah. Which with that, see, to me, that's more of that's an issue of pay to win. If you're playing a head-to-head game, and it comes down to who spends the most money or who has the right character, that's the person that wins. That I have an issue with.
Yeah,
because I think that's the difference between like pay to win and like just like DLC. Is if all of a sudden they said like, here's an expensive thing. Like, that's why like GTA Online is like walks that tightrope, because there's a lot of stuff in GTA Online that has no like value to anyone but you, like an apartment, for example. Like you can pay actual real world money to get an apartment, in-game apartment, and that could be useful for like hanging out with friends, doing heists, and like, you know, whatever. And if that's something that you wanted to get, and you want to pay $10-$20 for it, and you can just unlock it in the game, especially seeing as how that game is basically like an MMO at this point. They're just like hosing out free content in order to keep people playing because they keep spending money on the Space Banana dollars. Then I don't, because like for example, if like when the game first started, I was very weird about it because it was like, because that's when it was a lot more. People were unlocking guns and they were unlocking armor and tanks and things like that. But now it's like late game. And none of that shit really matters. Like, the tanks really aren't that dangerous anymore. There's enough going on in the game that most people aren't just driving around killing each other in free roam. And it's not that big of a deal anyway. And more importantly, anytime that you go head-to-head with somebody, you're not saying, like, well, this person paid $50 and you didn't, so they win. It's not even almost never. It is never that. When you play the competitive modes in GTA, they strip you of all your stuff, as far as I know. So I think maybe there's one costume that may reduce damage, I think, which is a little bit on the expensive side, but it's not impossible to get. Like, it's not something that you would have trouble getting in like 4 hours of playing the game.
Yeah.
So
I think there's a big difference between, so for example, since we're talking about this now.
Yeah. I know.
So both Dota 2 and League of Legends very much encourage you to spend money on the game to get new. In League of Legends' case, it's new characters, and all the characters do different things, and there are roles that have to be filled. So if you're a new player and you don't really want to put in the time to amass the fake money to buy the characters with your fake money, spending money on, real money to unlock those characters faster is something you can do that it's not pay to win, because just because you have that character at any given time doesn't necessarily mean that character is just playing better. A lot of the times, I know a lot of people would probably disagree with that on a numbers basis, because of the way that Riot releases updates for the game and it's constantly changing. And there are some times when some characters are just OP and you need to play the draft mode so you can ban those characters away and stuff like that. But the point is, you don't spend money to make yourself particularly stronger. You just sort of unlock characters and unlock the way that those characters look like. And they've even made a point about this, because in the background, there's a rune page. And you have your, I guess we'll call it the leveling up tree. And both of those things you only get the ability to make those things stronger and make your character's base stats stronger by playing the game longer. So when you start out, you're level 1 as a character, and as you play through the game over, I think it's like 300 to 400 games, you'll become level 30. And then that's when like ranked opens up and things like that. But all over that time, getting to level 30, every time you get a level, you get a point that you can put into your leveling up tree, which makes your character stronger and makes your base stats stronger. And makes it so that fighting somebody who's like level 5 is kind of unfair, because on base stats levels, you know, you as the level 30 are just playing better than that person.
Yeah.
And the same thing with runes. Runes gives you, you know, if you go through the game and you can spend your fake money, you can't actually spend real money on this, so that's kind of cool. But you can spend fake money on making yourself have more health, or you know, scaling health, or more attack damage, or more magic power, or whatever it is that you feel like you need for that kind of character. You spend fake money on it. And I think those are really good examples of how to do. We're going to spend money on this game and sort of unlock these different things without making it so that when you get put into a match, you're just automatically better than everybody because you spent, you know, $100 on the game.
Yeah. My hard fast rule for that still goes back to Battlefield Bad Company 2, which is for a while there. When the game first came out, everyone was getting guns, unlocking ammo, and what, like you have different. You unlock guns. You unlock. I forget what beyond guns, but like you unlock, I guess, like perks. I guess is the way to say it. Like depending on, like, there was like Magnum ammo was the one we always complained about because it made your ammo more powerful, and everyone always used that because why would you ever want anything but the most powerful ammo? And but therein lies the problem, because when they went, I guess you could say pay to win, they had a thing where you had like quote unquote DLC where you could spend $20 and it would unlock all the stuff in the game for people that wouldn't go through and unlock it on their own.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember.
And we were super angry about that, and it took me probably, what is it, 6 years now to finally come up with my rule of like why this bothers me, is because it was that when you first started with nothing, you had no Magnum ammo, you had no good guns, you didn't know how to use a class, because in order to get the guns, you have to earn points, and in order to earn points, you have to learn to play the class. So it's a feedback loop, and when you take that out of the game and just say, pay me money and I'll get rid of the feedback loop, it introduces a whole bunch of people into the game that don't know how to play the game. They just want to win. Right. And therein lies the problem. For a game like Battlefield that's heavily based in teamwork and relying on your team and working with others, to have a whole bunch of people that are like, nope, I want to pay $20 and get maximum kills. KD, bitch. Gotta get my KD of. Gotta have that 0.75 KD so all the ladies will know. It's like,
well, yeah, I think you touch on a slightly different issue, which is that I don't think money. I think what you would agree with is that money should never be able to dictate the balance of the game.
Yes, yeah.
And for games that let you buy guns or things like that, and the guns are, I guess. What am I trying to say? So I think my deal with a lot of game balancing issues, it's actually one of the big reasons why I'm not entirely, I don't really like Elite Dangerous as much as it kind of sounds like I do, is because that game's progression system is all about the ships. So every ship is better than the previous ship, and there's a clear line of this ship is better than this ship, and things like that. They're faster, they do more damage, they have more health, they have more space in their cargo holds, and things like that. Yeah, there are some ships that specialize in like exploration or having massive cargo holds or being able to fight really well, but in general, all of the ships are pretty much, you can line them up on like an evolutionary grid, if you will, and be like, okay, so you go from this ship to this one and so on. And I would say that's actually, that's the problem with Elite Dangerous, is that it sets up as the goal is to get a better ship. The goal is to get the Anaconda. Whereas in a game like League of Legends, what makes that game so cool is that you can get any kind of character and start building whatever you want on it within reason. So if you want to have a character be a tank and just absorb a ton of damage, you have items for that. And none of the items ever feel like they're just completely useless and you shouldn't get them. It's all more about, well, if you want to play this role, then you should get these kinds of items because that'll make you way more effective than if you try to do this. But you have that option, and there aren't any particularly wrong ways of going about it because you can set your own goals.
Yeah.
And for a lot of games that feature that kind of progression system where this gun is better than that gun and things like that, it ends up sort of narrowing everything down to these couple guns and these couple moves and those sorts of things, and makes everything else useless. And then when you introduce money into that whole system, then that just makes it a giant race to just get those guns, or the developer will do something like they do in Destiny, where they just introduce way better guns that you can spend money on. And you can just, forego the whole progression system and not necessarily learn how to play, and you can just get, these loot drops or whatever it is.
Which I'd be fine with if the game was PvE. If it was something like for example, when we played Mass Effect 3, the multiplayer, don't even talk about the single player. I don't want to talk about it now. This is the multiplayer. When you play with other people and it's just straight PvE, I don't see any problem. If you want to have a thing where somebody pays $60 to unlock all the whatever it is and things like that in order to have a super powerful character because they just want to play a super powerful character all the time, I don't really care. Because that was a 4-player squad-based thing, sort of like pretty much 4-player squad-based thing. PvE seems to be like, yeah, I don't care, whatever, do whatever you want. Same thing. Like, it's no different than like any single-player game. Like if you want to have a DLC that's like buy the gun that fires, explosive, whatever's. I don't even know. Like what I'm trying to think of a game that actually did this, of where like the first thing that keeps just repeating in my head over and over is horse armor. But like I guess like Just Cause 2 was probably the one time I think of that. Like Just Cause 2 had a bunch of DLC where it was like shit was crazy. Like the super powerful mega explosive rocket launcher. It's like, yeah, cool, whatever. You want to pay $5 for fucking super powerful mega explosive rocket launcher? I don't care, because like I said, it's not a thing. It's like it's like you're saying about when you change the flow of the game, when you change the balance of the game, or at least in my opinion and your opinion. I know that it's wildly different because people play video games for like wildly different reasons, obviously. But the whole idea of min-maxing, of where it's like, how can I efficiently spend real world money in order to get the best gear and everything possible so I can just do raids or whatever it is. Like, yeah, I don't give a shit. Like I'll talk briefly probably towards the end of this I'm looking forward to The Division, because it seems like a game that I can kind of play with my bros, my hashtag squad goals, and I could do that sort of thing. It doesn't really seem like if I don't have the best gear, I'm not going to be upset. Like I'm like fucking like I can't play the game because I don't have like the best gun, or like my stuff isn't all purple, so like I got to go grind until I get all purples. It's like if the game isn't entertaining enough for me to just play with my friends and have a good time, hashtag squad goals, then I don't really want to play that game to begin with. So like there's no way that they're going to get money out of me, because I would The Division might be the first game that I may actually pay for. They're calling it DLC, but whatever they're going to call it, microtransactions, I might toss some money their way after the initial season pass plus the game and whatever else. I'll get to that later, but I didn't buy the season pass yet. But yeah, but I may. We'll see. I have no problem supporting developers. I have no problem spending money on video games. It's the only hobby that I really have that I actually like spend money on, like biking. I have a bike. So, like that's and done. Like besides like minor bike maintenance, like one of my hobbies is pretty much I don't spend any money on it. And then the other hobby is writing and like reading. So it's like I got a library card and I've got a pen and I got a whole bunch of notebooks for Christmas. So I'm good. Like I don't. So it's like just to toss even if I was spending $100 a month on video games, which I don't. I don't even I think tops in the last like couple of months, like with the exception of Steam sales, I think I've spent like maybe $60 a month, which is like one new like retail AAA game. And it's usually never that. It's usually like I end up buying like a Humble Bundle and then, you know, whatever else random stuff. So it's not like I'm spending a whole lot of money, but that's, you know, it's
Oh, this is great because this segues into what we were actually going to talk about today. Because I've spent $30 so far this year on video games, and it was on Dragon's Dogma.
Oh, you want to talk about Dragon's Dogma first, or do you want to? Because I still have to talk about the game that I played because I actually.
Oh yeah. What game have you been playing?
As I was saying, I finished a fucking game for once. Because technically, actually didn't finish Arkham Knight. Because in order to get the ending of that game, you have to do all the Riddler stuff, which, as we discussed in the test episode we did that no one probably listened to, it's a real punch in the gonads to do all that Riddler stuff, because it's awful. And I had such fun doing it in Arkham City that it was like, hey, do you like this thing? It's like, yeah, it's great. And just right in the nuts. But yeah, no, I played through an entire AAA game. Made by a major developer, made by a major, published by a major studio, published by a major publisher, and it was I would say my review, welcome distraction on my journey towards my inevitable death. And that game was South Park: Stick of Truth. I can't say it was more than a distraction, but it certainly didn't make me quite like it didn't bring anything new to the table. Like I didn't play that game and be like, yes, this is, oh man, I have so much to talk to Jay about because I played Stick of Truth. Like it was an enjoyable game. It was a surprisingly enjoyable, solid week and a half, 13-hour gameplay experience to play Stick of Truth. And I think that has everything to do with my expectations of the game. Was that like I like South Park. I would say I'm a South Park fan. I'm enough of a South Park fan to appreciate the environment and the characters and all the gags and like the funny names on the items that you pick up and things like that. It is detailed and content rich enough that it actually felt like I was a 9-year-old that was walking around South Park pretending to be in an RPG, which is what the game is. Like, speaking of The Division, while I was playing, so in this 13 hours of playing South Park, it was stretched out over a couple of nights, and I played The Division in the middle of it, the open beta that came out. And I actually started to feel like Stick of Truth was closer to the world of South Park that lives in my head. Like when I imagine South Park, Stick of Truth is closer to that than how I imagine post-apocalyptic New York compared to The Division. And that's fucking nuts. Because The Division, they spent like 4 or 5 years making that game. That game is amazingly like this amazing rendered, beautiful, like you can close doors and you move around cars and every detail's there, and like they have like fake brands that are there to make you feel like every time you go into a fake 7-Eleven you see the fake soda brand, you're like, wow, everything is cohesive, and it makes me, it's like, yeah, you give me this amazingly rendered world, like this recreation of New York or LA or Thetis that was in Dragon Age Inquisition. Like that was Dragon Age Inquisition is probably the last like Stick of Truth style RPG I guess I played. And like thinking back to that, I was like Thetis really didn't feel like a world. Like it really felt like kind of like gimmicky. Like it was very like I liked Dragon Age Inquisition, not enough to finish it. I put it down and I started playing other stuff because I'm not really that big into like dragons and fantasy and everything else. Which doesn't bother me about South Park because it's mostly not about that. It's mostly about South Park, and I just want to feel like I belong in a world. Like when I play a game, I want something that's at least as immersive and deep as like Red Dead Redemption, which was a super expensive AAA game, but it's also 6 years old, almost 6 years old. Okay, maybe a better example would be than Shadowrun Dragonfall. Dragonfall was made by a developer that's got like 50 employees around there, 55, maybe 60 tops employees. Like they're not a big, and they do a bunch of stuff. So like they're not a big company at all. They fund their projects at Kickstarter. And when you play Dragonfall, you still feel like you exist in the world that is Shadowrun. And it maxes my expectations by doing the bare minimum. And I think that's fantastic. But then I go to play like this big, epic, amazing, huge, like Fallout 4 is on the edge. Sometimes I'm there, sometimes I'm not. Like, I played that game a lot. I played Fallout 4 so far, probably like 100 hours or so, and I'm constantly teetering on the edge of like, I don't really know how present I feel in this world. It depends. It depends if I'm streaming or not. It depends on who's in the room with me.
I think I think you have the same problem with because immersion in a game is really hard to do, and for a game like The Division and things like that, what they really need to do. Well, let me back up for a second. I think the two most immersive games I've played in recent memory was Elder Scrolls Oblivion, which came out like almost 10 years ago.
And Dragon's Dogma, aren't you?
No, Dragon's Dogma is not. No, I love Dragon's Dogma for all of the wrong reasons.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. But the other one was This War of Mine, and I feel like This War of Mine is really immersive. However, there is one mechanic in that game that constantly smacks you in the face because it brings you back to reality and that you're playing a video game. But other than that, the mechanic is the inventory system. So it has like a day and night cycle. During the day, you build up your base and like put in reinforcements and things like that to try to make it so that while you're scavenging at night, when intruders come and stuff like that, it's a harder chance when you flip the coin and whether or not they steal from you. It's harder for them to actually steal from you if you build up and do things like that.
Okay.
But at night you get to go out and scavenge, and every time that you go out and scavenge, the way that they set up the inventory system, it's all just squares. So you can pick up 2 pieces of wood that are like 2x4s, and that'll take up a square, and you can only hold 2 of them. But and every time it smacks you in the face, I remember this succinctly and clearly. I remember sitting there the first time I realized that there's a big problem with this inventory system is when I had to choose between picking up 2 pieces of wood that were 2x4s or 8 cigarettes, because apparently both of those things took up the same exact amount of space.
Okay, yeah.
And immersion came crashing down, and that sucks because that game is all about immersion except for this one thing that you sadly do a ton.
Okay, the whole thing about the game is all about this thing.
Mm-hmm.
That I know that when I first started Stick of Truth, I said to you, hey, I'm going to play Stick of Truth, and you said, I like that, but the combat sucks. And I agree with you. I totally agree with you. The combat feels shallow and repetitive, and about halfway through the game, I was avoiding combat every chance I got, which luckily the game does give you some opportunities to do. And like it's right around when I figured out that I was going to hit max level, which is 15, and I knew that I was going to hit max level, so I was like, yeah, I don't really, there's no reason to grind in Stick of Truth. Like, it's not really, there's no reason to fight anybody in Stick of Truth, really.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of getting hypercritical and picking it apart to be like, yes, Jay, I figured out what it was that, made me angry about this, and it's like, because I just go into every battle and spam my special Jew abilities until, the enemy is dead. I thought about what I was actually doing to win fights, and it seemed like most of the boss battles or the creature, the more powerful creature battles, not just the random stuff that you run into battles that are just kind of superfluous and are there to pad for time, because they are in most games, and it's just easy things to do. It's pretty much stuff I did after the first night of the game, because it's 3-day game, so it's after the first night, it's 1/3 through the game, and it was items. I won because I was looting the most items. I had the best gear, or I had good gear that I was tactically nothing I was doing was mattering, because I had the right gear, the right items, and also because I was blocking and countering, which I could probably skip some of the blocks and counters for the most part, or fuck up a lot more than I did because I could just heal. But it was mostly make sure I have enough items and make sure everything's geared towards PP and doing my attacks and things like that. And at that point, it's all right, maybe this game's not really about the combat. It's about looting every chest and doing quests and interacting with the people in the town. And maybe all of this is because I had the difficulty on normal, and on harder difficulties, you have to dive in and figure out this, combat system and everything. But I don't really care. And I think that the developers knew that. And I think that that's kind of wonderful, because I don't want to get good at Stick of Truth. I will spend 6 months of my life getting really good at XCOM. I have spent a year of my life trying to be as good as possible as I can really be at XCOM. I will watch videos during my lunch break, and I'll read articles about tactics and like study enemy wiki pages and whatever. And I'm sure I'll do it all again for XCOM 2. But fuck if I'm going to get good at Stick of Truth. Like, I want to play Stick of Truth. I want to get through Stick of Truth. But I don't really want to get good at it. So for me, at least, it was kind of like, and that's for most RPGs. Most RPGs, with the exception of Fallout, I really just want to enjoy the world and loot a bunch of stuff and just have a good time and have it work. And for the most, just enjoy it. And that's what it does. Like, it's South Park. And
So I know exactly, because I was thinking about this while you were talking about it. I know exactly why I don't view looting as like a thing that I really like doing. It's because I've played Kingdoms of Amalur.
Okay.
And that has forever soured my views of like games that are RPGs with sucky combat and looting.
Yeah, no. The looting like when you pick up gear, it has to be fun. Like part of South Park is dressing your character, and like part of the game is like you're picking up like clothing dyes and like trying to like customize the look of your character, because like they know who the audience is. Like pretty much since like as long as I can remember, as long as there's like been South Park and the internet, there's been people that make their avatar as like South Park characters. They have a little like character customization thing or whatever, and make those, and they're like, look, I'm a South Park character. It's like, yeah, that's great. People like it. People really do. I don't really care. I just want the best gear. Like, I don't care how I look. I ended up looking like a pretty princess by the end of the game, which is actually pretty great. Which was actually pretty great. But I don't care. So I just want the best, like, whatever, just to get through it, because I want to have a good time. Like, if there were different interactions for different clothing, I would be way more invested in it. But there wasn't, so I'm not. And that's actually, like, that's. Maybe it works so well because I picked the game up for $10, and everything that I'm talking about for a $10 game is fucking amazing. If I had paid, to go back on making fun of you about the 20-hour thing, if I had paid $60 at launch for a 13-hour game, I probably would have felt a little ripped off, and I would have felt a little bad, because there's really no replay value to Stick of Truth. Like, it's mostly just a game that you play once, you enjoy it, you get 13 hours of a good time. It's only about tops 15 hours, but it is a solid chunk of gameplay. Like, it's 13 hours. Like, it's a lean, smooth 13 hours. There's really not a whole lot of like grinding or doing random crap, because if you start doing random crap, the game kind of limits you from doing it, actually, because there's too much stuff to do in a small area. You'll eventually fall on something that it'll get you to do, which is good. But I mean, it's 15 fucking hours. It never stops feeling like South Park, and that's kind of something. Like, that's really is something. It's well animated and rendered and conceptualized. Like, even the dull. I wrote down a note that I was playing the dullest fetch quest in the game, and there was still a moment where I was laughing and having a good time, and I couldn't wait to tell you about it. That I was like, there's no RPG where it's a dumb fetch quest. Like, when I play Fallout and there's dumb fetch quests, or like, go here, kill this guy, most of the time I groan and try to do anything to not do it, or I just don't do it. Like, it's just like, it feels like a waste of my time. Like, the game's giving me homework to do, whereas South Park didn't do that. So maybe it's worth some money. Maybe it's worth, like, it's thinking about the time the game isn't wasting, like time that you can go play outside. Like, there's like, it sucks that they couldn't combine the setting and the humor and the character interaction and all the rest of the stuff with better gameplay. But honestly, even if they did, I'd still be rushing through the combat to get to the next part of the game, because I don't really care about the combat in the context of the South Park game. I don't care. I don't care about the combat in the context of most RPGs. It's not fulfilling to me. Like Final Fantasy style combat is totally boring to me. I don't care. It's so I want adventure games. I want like more I don't want complex combat or even more quests. I just want deeper interaction. I want more like adventure style interaction of talking to people and changing my clothes to get different reactions from people in South Park, or exploring and getting to talk to people and things like that. So, and that's about all I have to say about South Park Stick of Truth. So, what were you going to talk about before? Do you want to talk about something else? So you had a tangent, or did you want to go on to the...
So to me, a game with a really good story, like the South Park Stick of Truth game, Or even Dragon Age Origins. They both sort of commit the cardinal sin of not being that fun to play, in my opinion. Like, the story is really good, and you play it for the story, but they're not fun to play. Dragon's Dogma has the opposite problem. That game is a blast to play, but the story is just terrible. And I think that's one of the reasons why I kind of like Dragon's Dogma in a lot of ways, because the story is just insane. It's both bad and weird at the same time. But it's fun, and you can play that game for hours and still have a lot of fun with it. But you don't get a riveting story out of it or anything like that. You don't even really feel immersed in the world or anything like that. You just have fun and run around hitting stuff with your sword.
That's my personal preference for games is immersion. Then there are lots of games that are objectively great games that don't do that, and I don't shit on those games. In fact, I was going to talk to you about that. So, yeah. Do you want to segue to the talking about the thing that we're talking about this week, or?
Yeah, we should do that.
Okay, we carry along. Yeah. So the topic of the week was going to be, or still is, should you ever hate a game? That was the question you asked me. It was like, what's the purpose of hating a game? So I guess let's back it off for a second. So you review games, and I used to review games, and that requires going through a game and like taking an inventory of what's good about it, what's bad about it, things like that. So I'll say, like, there's a kind of a question you ask yourself when doing that, which is, why be critical of games?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I would like to think that what I do is not necessarily. I'm reviewing games, but I'm also analyzing them a lot and trying to sort of talk about the deeper reasons why a game is good or why it's not and things like that. Sometimes I do that and sometimes I don't. But I think what I'm trying to do when I talk about video games is talk about the underlying stuff rather than just saying, "Oh yeah, I really like this," and just sort of leaving it at that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but even if you are, I think it takes a critical eye and a critical approach to even figure out what you like about a game and what works in a game versus.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like, I don't think that you should ever hate. To answer your question, the main question that you had asked me, which is, should you ever hate a game? I don't think the answer is, I don't think you should hate a game. But you can, and I do, because I'm human. However, if you're reviewing games, you should probably not hate them or back off from hating them and back off towards being critical of them and taking a critical approach to it. Because, like, for me, the reason to be critical of games was at first just like knowing nothing about video games and writing about them. So when I first started doing all that stuff, it was my gateway to understanding more about games as a medium. Like, I used to get really angry as a kid, really, really angry about video games, to the point of where I actually became more of a PC gamer than a console gamer, because it felt like most console games in the NES, Super NES, I didn't have a Super NES or a Sega, so like during that console generation, no good. But at least I had an NES, and I had a lot of NES games, and most of them, the vast majority of them, felt like a slog through the first 10 minutes of the game, jumping and shooting and puzzle solving or you know, whatever, and then you just get killed and you have to restart from the beginning, and I would learn nothing. Like, not the famous ones, like you know, the popular games like everybody loves, but like but there were still a lot, like there's still like the vast majority of NES games were like quickly adapted from kind of arcade play style games, where it's just like, give me that quarter as soon as possible, so just kill the player or make sure they die very quickly and then restart, and it's not a good loop. And when I first started writing about games professionally, that's right around when Super Meat Boy came out. And everyone said to me, play Super Meat Boy. And I said no, because Super Meat Boy isn't my kind of game. I don't like platformers at all. It's not my jam. I don't, I just don't, there's nothing there for me. Like, I was like, any way you can describe Super Meat Boy, like even the humor of it, I'm like, I guess you could say I like the humor of it, but that's about it. Like, that's the only thing of where I was like, oh, this is interesting because he's Bandage Girl and Dr. Fetus and whatever else. Okay, cool. But I picked it up anyway. So playing through it, I was like, wow, Super Meat Boy is objectively a great game. Not a good game, a great game. Super Meat Boy is possibly one of the main reasons, if you're going to give somebody a game and say, like, this is what your game should be, it's one of the main reasons why I think that if anyone's still making tutorials in their game, and like it's like a tutorial style tutorial, fuck you. Like, especially like fuck anyone who's involved with the Far Cry series, because they still have not figured out how to make a tutorial that is not a tutorial. They basically like especially in like Blood Dragon, they like wink at you and they're like, huh, like isn't it funny that like tutorials are dumb? Here's a tutorial. It's like, fuck you. Go play Super Meat Boy. Like, you don't like, and especially too, it's like, I know Super Meat Boy is just taking from the better of the retro games, like a Mega Man or a Zelda style game of like where you're learning to play it as you go. But you can play Super Meat Boy and you can learn a lot from just the first couple levels, because it's just you get taught the rules of play through play without limiting play. There's no hold you by the hand tutorial, and there's no moment where it ramps up the difficulty right before like just all of a sudden like, well now you're dead. Like, you get the chance to explore the depth of your abilities. You get to explore like everything that Super Meat Boy has to offer as a game, step by step, in a way that just it's this wonderful feedback loop of dying and respawning instantly and trying again and learning from your mistake. And when the rubber hits the road, you like fly through the game. Like, the game just like cranks. The controls are tight, the mechanics are solid, and you can just bang through the levels. If you're good at platforming and you know the style of game, if that's your thing, you can just blow through the first couple levels of Super Meat Boy, no problem. It's wonderful. But if you're not, you can still slow the process down and build up to where you're not only good enough to beat that level, but then you can go back and play all the previous levels, and you'll be able to go faster, better, do it with less mistakes, like get the hidden bandage or whatever that you need to do. Like, you actually learn. And that is one of the few platformers I actually had a really good time playing. I don't like platformers at all, but I loved Super Meat Boy, and I still think that Super Meat Boy is just the best. And for being critical of all those games and not having, like, just hating those games and being angry about that, and then looking at a game with a critical with a critical eye and being critical in that specific instance of Super Meat Boy taught me about game design and gave me sort of initial thread to research when I went to go write about games, which was feedback loops. And I was like, wow, feedback loops are why I really like certain games. Certain games have a tight feedback loop that make me feel like the game's not wasting my time or just trying to get a quarter out of me. And that's really something versus,
then
yeah,
there was LA Noire.
Don't even get me fucking started about LA Noire. I guess the other thing I would say is that I've never had good luck hating games. Because LA Noire is a fucking shit show of a game. I genuinely dislike LA Noire because it's everything that I thought I would like in a game. And that is, okay, so if you want to know why I hate games, not should you hate games, I don't think you should, but why I hate games, it's because I get really excited for a game because it's everything I want. A better, less charged example is Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, because that was probably like the fourth or fifth review I had written that I was like professionally like paid to write a video game review. Someone gave me money to write a video game review, and it was Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. So I had to review that game. It was for people that don't know, it was a sort of kind of sequel cash-in that was supposed to bridge Assassin's Creed 2 and 3. And I got really excited about it, and I was like, awesome. And then I played it, and it was not what I was expecting. And then I got really excited again because I got to write a review that gave this wholly mediocre dollar menu version of the game I loved, Assassin's Creed 2. I had to give it a 7 out of 10, which is the worst score that you can give a video game, a 7 out of 10. Oh, a pox on your house. And I hope your children die in a fire. Like, 7 out of 10. And I remember actually at the time I was having an argument with the people I worked with because they're like, no, a 7 out of 10, no, certainly not, no. I was like, yes, a 7 out of 10. And then the game sold like 7 million copies. And then they came out with Assassin's Creed Revelations, which was even worse, and that sold 9 million copies. And there was Assassin's Creed 3, the long-awaited Assassin's Creed 3 that I was so excited for when I played Assassin's Creed 2, and it was so boring and repetitive and like just offensive to my sensibilities. I couldn't even finish it, and that sold like 12, 13 million copies.
Oh man, dude, you missed out. Like, Assassin's Creed 3 is absolutely the worst. It's where you get to play the villain that doesn't know he's the villain for the entire game.
I did play it. That's what I'm saying. I played it and I quit like, I don't know, 6 hours. I think that's the closest I've ever gotten to snapping a disc in half. That is, I really did not like that game. No, L.A. Noire is the closest. Well, no, okay, L.A. Noire got really close to snapping the disc in half, and then there was that moment where, because you have to go investigate somebody's house. Like they're building, like it's a construction area, like the GI build, they're building houses. And then it was like, oh, this game is the worst.
The bulldozer.
I'm going to snap this disc in half. And then the bulldozer came out of nowhere. And it was like the music, like when Kirk fights Spock, like the dun, 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 like whatever it was. And like the bulldozer was chasing me. I'm like, I can't hate this game any more than it already hates itself. Like this game is the worst. There was a high production value, just big. It just caked its pants thoroughly, and I just need to, whatever. Whereas Assassin's Creed, Brotherhood is a game I didn't like. But it was also the success that meant that the series that I love became a yearly thing like Call of Duty that I hated. And that was something at the time that felt personally hurtful to me. I felt wounded because of this. And for a while there, that was going from a dude who knew so many people. They were excited for where this franchise would go and what they would do and the mystery that was surrounding those who came before and all the running and the jumping and the stabbing and the assassins and Templars and this secret war they had going on. And then after Brotherhood, that all went away. Like, I probably would have been the person who would, if Brotherhood would have been a good game, I probably would have ended up writing Assassin's Creed fan fiction. Like, I was a huge fan of that series and what they were trying to do. And then I was excited to wear a white hoodie and talk about conspiracy theories and figure out how Ezio might have children that would go to Japan. And so they would Assassin's Creed in Japan. Oh my god, everyone was saying, oh, it might be in Japan. No, it wasn't Japan. It was fucking bullshit.
Italy.
So, yeah, it's same old Italy. And then a bunch of people thought it was more profitable to do something that wasn't what I wanted. And now I know, obviously, that because it's not about me. It's about this company, and they're trying to make a profit, and they're trying to make a franchise, and they were always going to, in some way, shit the bed with that franchise. And because that's what they do. They shit the bed. They ask for $60. They shit the bed, and they point out the window to some beautiful building that distracts from the smell. And you're like, wow, architecture. And you're like, yeah, that's something, ain't it? And that's what Assassin's Creed is. And that's what it has to be because they need the franchise. And the fact that I loved Assassin's Creed 2 so much meant that it was doomed. Because the shareholders demand a franchise when people love things that much. If you love Rock Band, prepare to see it die. Like, that's how that works. And, like, the fucking insane thing is that even though I can go on for days about how I hated those games, I still somehow have copies of every fucking Assassin's Creed, like all the major ones, the Assassin's Creed games, including the one that they just made. I was in France because I got it for free with the Expo, and I immediately tossed it on. Like I whipped it like a frisbee onto the couch. Like I don't have the newest one, but I probably will. There will probably be some way that someone will be like, here's Assassin's Creed. Like it's like herpes. Like I just can't not get it, and it's terrible. Yeah, I don't know. And then L.A. Noire, like I guess I hate games and I feel passionate about hating things when marketing sells a game to me and they're like, this is the next thing that you're going to love. It's like, okay, it's in LA. Okay, cool. It's got this beautiful motion capture thing. Okay, it's an adventure game. Okay, all right. It's about detectives. Okay, L.A. Noire setting. Okay, man.
It has almost the entire cast of Mad Men.
Yeah, almost the entire cast. Like every fucking thing. All the selling points about L.A. Noire. It's like, oh man, oh yeah, oh here it comes, and then someone just farts. Just right in my face. And they're just like, yeah, that's what you get for trusting us. Next thing, I'm going to make a game about the rape of Nanking. It's like, get the... Really?
Oh, yeah! He wanted to do that, didn't he?
You have to understand, I have the hatred tattooed on the inside of my heart for L.A. Noire. Like, I have so much irrational anger about that fucking game and everything that was related to that game, to the point of where I really think it hurt my enjoyment of GTA 5 to see them use the technology from LA Noire and be like, you had to kill something that I would have loved in order to make this thing that you made now. God damn it. Like, I don't know.
I just had flashbacks from back when I was playing through it, and you and I were talking about it a lot of the time that I was playing through it. I remember going from thinking, this is kind of boring, but I'll slug it out and see what happens, to, oh my god, this is horrible in every way, shape, and form. Every way, shape, and form. I remember, I think I had the realization how bad it was with the burning house mission, where the house is burned and like 4 people are dead or whatever, and then you have to Zamboni around to try to figure out what you're supposed to pick up. Yeah, that was it for me.
Yeah, I know. Objectively, when I look back on that, I feel like a huge goof, because those are not, in my opinion, they're bad games. Objectively, they're all right. They're okay. They do what they're supposed to do. They do the bare minimum. And I think that's what was most offensive to me at that time, was I was like, this is a game that's going to sell like 10 million copies, and a bunch of people are going to play it, and they're going to be like, wow, this is something. And it's just like, it's just a con. Like, you've been had year after year. You've been had by the Assassin's Creed like series. Like, oh, there's multiplayer now. It's kind of fun. It's like, yeah, it is kind of fun. My friends are gonna get it. Like, that was the whole reason I bought Assassin's Creed 3. I remember saying to everyone, I'm not buying Assassin's Creed 3. I remember being like, fuck you, fuck all of you, even you specifically. I think you were like, yeah, I got Assassin's Creed 3, and I was like, yeah, go fuck yourself, because I ain't buying that. And then,
Revelations. Revelations was like $5 or something like that back in the day.
I know, and that's how they get me. I don't think I paid full price for any of the Assassin's Creed games since I actually only had paid full price for an Assassin's Creed game for the 2.2 or whatever it was, Brotherhood. And then after that, I was always like, I'll buy a bargain bin version of this because the guys want to play the multiplayer or, whatever it was. But even then, it's just like, somebody wants this and I'm going to have to experience it. Like, it's like hanging out with an ex-girlfriend. Like, it's just like, hey, you want to go hang out with her? Like, no, I really don't. It's like, hey, it's cool. It's got multiplayer now. And like, there's a really cool like thing with co-op and whatever. It's like, yeah, all right. Okay. That's what we're doing. Like, it's August and there's nothing coming out until October. Like, all right. Yeah,
I think you feel about LA Noire the same way that I feel about the Banner Saga. I think the Banner Saga is my LA Noire.
I don't think I've ever heard or seen you frothing at the mouth. I don't think I was as angry about George Bush getting elected a second time as I was about LA Noire. And I was fucking angry about George Bush. Let me tell you. LA Noire is something that I was irrationally angry about for a really, really long time. In a way that I would compare it to when people make fun of the people who still hate Mass Effect. Like me, I still make fun of the people who make Mass Effect 3. Like, if you're going to be like, fucking Mass Effect 3 ending, whatever, it's like, hey, that game was DOA. Just let it go. Just let it go, man. It was a fun game. It was fun. The DLC, I'm sure, was good. Like, I just let it go. Let it go. And then I could see that person turning around and be like, well, what about LA Noire? Like, fuck you, and fuck your family, and fuck everyone you know, and fuck your eventual children, and I hope you're blinded by your worst enemy, and all the worst things in life happen to you and nobody else, and fuck LA Noire. Yeah, I don't. Now I don't really care. In the same way that I don't think that I would be as easily talked into picking up something like Assassin's Creed in the future. Like, I think I'm kind of glad that they're not doing a month or a yearly installment of that anymore, because I think that they finally it feels like they're listening to me, Jay. They're listening to me and my criticism, because I want that franchise back. I loved it so. I really do, but they need to take some time and figure out where they went wrong, which was right about when they came out with Brotherhood, and maybe they'll come out with a really good game, and I'll play it with you guys and whatever else. But now, at least when I play games and it's like the end of August and no one has anything to play, I can say to people like, oh, oh, you want me to play this game? Go fuck yourself, because I can go play Rocket League, or I can go play Fallout, or I can go play whatever. Like, there's just so much good stuff that's been coming out. Like, I think people really forget that there wasn't really a whole lot of quality games that were coming out back in, like, 2010. Like, 2010, 2011, 2012, there were some good games, but it wasn't like, there was still lots of time where it was like, oh, okay, I'm going to play a game with my friends. Fuck, what do I play? I don't know. You know.
And to be fair to the Assassin's Creed series, they only really ever had one good game, which was the second one. That game was really good.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah.
The first one though was dog shit. Like, it had a really cool idea, but the gameplay was super repetitive. The story was kinda okay, but the voice acting was terrible. And then it ended on this a really obnoxious cliffhanger.
Let me tell you a secret about me, Jay. I love it when people absolutely fucking just mess things up first time around, but then they knock it out of the park the second time around. That is a secret that you've learned about me. I think it's why all my friends are nerds, because every time I meet someone, they're like, "Hi, fucking lamp, water fountain, hello, I'm bad at social interaction," and I'm like, "Yeah, we're gonna get along just fine," because that was awful and really awkward, and then from now on, everything's gonna be great, because usually that's how it is. Because usually the next conversation was like, "Hey, I saw you. We already had the initial, awkward interaction. We can now have, a good conversation about the politics of Games of Thrones and such, things like that." So yeah, no, that's really good. Yeah.
Did you? Yeah, and so after that, it was pretty much just straight cash grabs from Assassin's Creed Brotherhood all the way to Unity. They haven't made a good.
It has to be. It has to be. It's their yearly franchise. It has to be. I'm not going to shit on them for that. It has to be. It has to be what it is.
I think 4 rose to being really close. It was probably the best one since 2, but it definitely wasn't as good as 2.
I definitely played a lot of just being a pirate in 4.
Yeah,
that's very true.
And
yeah.
I always got the sense that for Assassin's Creed 4, what they really could have done was just taken the ship thing, or the ship being a pirate in Assassin's Creed, taken that out and actually made a completely separate short game just about being a pirate. And they kind of did that
with sell.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe just tack on. They kind of did that though with the black guy, because there's a black ex-slave DLC.
Yeah, but that's DLC. Yeah, no, but that's like, if you're saying you want to sell a $60 game, a core experience, it has to be like, that's the whole thing with Assassin's Creed, with Brotherhood and all the rest of them, was like, you have to play these games because they are. If you don't play these games, you'll never understand the mystery, the delicious lost like mystery that is going to be. Fucking Assassin's Creed 3. Like, they actually hyped the shit out of Assassin's Creed 3 for years. That was going to be the greatest story in video games, and it was going to clear everything up and be the most amazing thing. And it's like, yeah, no, you guys really fucked up. Like, you fucked up. Just own it. Take a year off from making games, come back with a new one, make it good. Don't force me to follow people around before being a pirate.
But again, like they're very much stuck in the conventions that they set out for themselves in the first game. The reason the first game sucked is because there were only like 3 different kinds of missions. And then in the second one, they were like, "Oh, our first game has really repetitive gameplay, so let's add, 30 different missions to the game instead of just 3." And it was good enough for that kind of game. The tutorial was really good. The first 20 minutes of that game are beautiful and amazing. But if you want to talk about feedback loops, like, let's go back to the idea of a feedback loop. You're talking about a game that sells like, like I said, like 7 million copies or whatever it was, a couple million copies for 2 and Brotherhood, and then just sells just fucking progressively. Like, you're tacking on like 3 million more copies every time you make a game, like to the point of where you're just like, oh, we're gonna be selling like fucking COD numbers soon if we just keep making fucking games every year, keep cranking them out. Like, that's the idea, and that's why it's like you can't design a brand new game with new types of everything and all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, just the fact that they made Black Flag is fucking crazy. There's fucking pirate ships in that game. Pirate ships don't belong in an Assassin's Creed game. Who came up with that? That shit's crazy.
but it's mostly just an iteration on the ship that was in 3. So it's like, okay, you can kind of see how it all works, and it's like, all right, kind of see how it all works, and every year they do something a little bit different. They try to, iterate on the previous one, and that one had smoke bombs, and now this one has gas bombs, and whatever else it is. And it's like, just keep buying it, just fucking, we need 3 million more units sold. It's like, that's what they do, and that's who they are, and that's what they're chilling.
You would think they would follow. You would think that they would follow the Call of Duty model, though, where Call of Duty every couple of years releases a new kind of franchise. So if it's not, Black Ops, it's Ghosts or the regular.
That's because they have different studios that do it, and because in a way they know that COD is deeply, deeply broken. That people want to play COD for the multiplayer. No, it is. Like they know what they're selling. They're fully aware of what they're selling, and they know that is what that game is, and they know that they have to sell that game. And if you want to sell a new Assassin's Creed game, all you have to do is say, "Fucking pirates now, fucking motherfucking pirates now. France, you want to go to France? Oh, motherfucker, we got France for you. France, motherfucker. Oh, England? England's got trains and fog, bitches. Trains and fog."
But no ninjas for you.
No. Well, why would no? Because that'll be the moment when you start putting ninjas in that game. You'll be like, oh, fucking, I was basically already fighting ninjas. Like, that's what the assassins are. That's what the Templars are. They're basically just fucking ninjas. Like, they got the rope dart and everything. Like, they're basically fucking ninjas. Oh, so now you're just making them look like ninjas. Oh, yeah. So, and that's when the facade starts to crumble, and people go, oh shit, I've been playing this fucking same game 6 times. Every year I buy this fucking same game again, and they just add in something a little bit different. Son of a bitch. And that's eventually why they're like, we gotta stop, probably release a remastered edition, because that's probably what they're gonna do, and what everybody does. And, like I said, I can't, now as a kind of an adult, I look back on this stuff and I can't get angry about it, because I just look at it and go, there's somebody out there that fucking totally paid for his kid's college fund because they made another Assassin's Creed game, and I can't hate on that. Like, I can't hate on the fact that they're giving people jobs and selling games, because again, like nobody wants to buy. If you try to sell Black Flag as a standalone, separate, hey, it's a bunch of pirates game, nobody's buying that fucking game. Nobody gives a shit about pirates. Nobody cares. That's why I love that game. It's because it's like, I love fucking games about pirates. Like, I'm like super, super jazzed. There's a bunch of games that are coming out about pirates, and it's like, yeah, fucking pirates. Who doesn't love pirates? It's like, turns out most people.
So then, really quickly, what is a really, like, not bad game, but what is like a mediocre to bad game that you really like?
A mediocre to bad game that I really like. Shit, I don't have an answer for that.
Oh, okay. Mine's Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah, no, I know. Next episode, I'll come back to you with an answer for that. Why we'll really think about that when we talk about free to play or whatever we're going to talk about next time. Actually, yeah, we'll probably talk about that next time. Let's talk about the free to play and paying to win and things like that, because we could probably expand on our thoughts a bit more about that, because I don't know what you're excited about, but I am super excited about The Division coming out Tuesday. So, well, last Tuesday, probably when this gets released. So, yeah. So, at this point, I'm either super disappointed by or super excited by The Division by the time someone's actually listening to this. Because yeah, that's coming out, and I'm super jazzed. That's the thing I'll probably be playing for a bit. Because everybody else is playing it. And that's what's going on now. Because that's how I play games as an adult, is I just go where everybody else is going. Because it's like going to the bar. But with
not really
people.
Not really excited about really anything. I'm excited to beat Dragon's Dogma for the probably 10th time now. But it'll be the first time on PC, and the first time since like 2013 when I had an Xbox 360 and was playing it on the 360.
Okay. Sounds good. I guess if you got nothing else, then we'll wrap this up. That is about all. That's everything for this episode. I think we covered everything. So, thanks for listening. And if you want to talk to us about games, you can find me on Twitter at Joey Heflick, or on YouTube, also under Joey Heflick is the username. And Jay, where can we find you?
You can find me at Plastic Knights on Twitter, and you can find me here on this YouTube channel of the Plastic Knights. And you can also go to the Facebook page for the Plastic Knights, which will all be linked in the description.
Oh, you're very professional with all that.
Oh.
Well, thanks again for listening. Don't camp the spawn, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.